Hello, my name is Jim. Welcome to my booktube channel about books and reading and stuff. In this video I want to look at the mid-year book Freakout tag. I haven't been tagged by anyone as far as I know, but I saw this on Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats and many other channels, so I thought, as it's the end of June, I thought this would be a good time to have a look at my first half year of reading. Question 1. Best book you've read so far this year? This would be the first book I read this year, which was The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang, a Japanese style fantasy novel, and it was incredible. I'll link to my review here. Best sequel you've read so far this year? I don't really read sequels, but I read one, so I guess that makes it the best. It was a good book. The Watcher Girl. This was a sequel to The Memory Watcher by Minka and The Watcher Girl is about Grace McMullen, who is concerned that her ex has moved into her neighbourhood with a new wife who looks incredibly like Grace, and they've even called their first child Grace, and it's about who's watching who. A new release you haven't read but want to. I've just heard about The Personal Librarian by Benedict. This sounds a fascinating book. It's about Belle da Costa, who was a black woman who was trying to pass as white so she could work as a personal librarian for J.P. Morgan, and it sounds a fascinating story. It's based on a true story. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I think this will go to The Pursued and the Pursuing by A.J. Odasso. This is a retelling of the Great Gatsby story, assuming that he survived and continued to live after, and it sounds fascinating. For biggest disappointment, I think for me this would be Migrations. This was a collection of short stories by Puerto Rican writer J.L. Torres. I hadn't read anything from Puerto Rico before, but I found the stories often started well but then fizzled out. They didn't go anywhere, and I was rather disappointed. Number 6, biggest surprise. This was police procedural novels. My parents used to love watching police procedurals on the TV in the 90s and early 2000s. Things like Inspector Morse and Taggart and all those sort of things. And I picked up The Bone Jar by S.W. Kane, which is a police procedural set in London, and I really enjoyed it. This was a debut novel. And then I read another one, In Dark Water by Lynn McEwan, set in south of Scotland, Dumfries. And again, I found these fascinating. This is a genre that I really like, and I haven't been reading this genre for a very long time, so I might seek out some more police procedural novels. Favourite new author. A lot of the books I read this year were by new authors to me. 2 that stood out were M.L. Wang, who wrote The Sword of Kaigen, and also Susan Bernard, who wrote Winterloon. These are very good novels, and I look forward to seeing what they write next. Number 8, newest fictional crush. I think this has to be Misaki from Sword of Kaigen. She's maybe in her early 40s, and she's a mother, but she has some interesting magic powers, and she's not afraid to fight. And she's very good at fighting. Number 9, newest favourite character. I think this will be Binti from the book Binti by Nedi Okorafor. This is a science fiction novel. It's about a young girl, Binti, who's been accepted to a prestigious galactic academy, and she goes and takes the rocket with her fellow students, and what happens to her there. And she adorns herself in this sort of red mud like a Namibian tribeswoman, and she's got a lot of character, a lot of spunk, shall we say. Number 10, books that made you cry. I don't cry a lot, but there were two very sad books I read. One was Winterloon by Susan Bernard, a coming-of-age story about a teenager Wes in wintry Minnesota whose parents are both alcoholics, and it starts with his mother falling through the ice of a lake and drowning, and how he fights against all the adversity life has thrown at him to try to make something of his life. And the other one was Little Brother, which was a memoir about Ibrahima Balde's journey across the Sahara to find his little brother, which he doesn't manage to do, and he encounters all sorts of troubles along the way. He's kidnapped, he's imprisoned, he's made to work like a slave, he's trafficked, and it's a very harrowing, heart-wrenching story, and it's true. He did eventually make it to Spain, but he never found his little brother. 11 books that make you happy. I haven't read a lot this year. There were more sad books than heart-wrenching books. I guess this one, Georgia and the Mountains of Poetry by Peter Nesmith. There are some dark passages in it. Georgia's had a troubled history, but Georgian hospitality comes through very strongly in this. In Swaneti and mountain region, or maybe Tosheti, they kidnap a UN group of observers and steal their car, but then they invite them to a supra, which is a big Georgian feast, and everybody ends up drunk, and they become friends, and they give back the car and they let the prisoners go. This is very typical of Georgian hospitality and supra napping. Number 12, most beautiful book that you've got so far this year. This one's got a nice cover. This is The Swan Thieves by Elizabeth Kostova. This is based on a painting. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Well, there's The Pursued and the Pursuing, because I've got an e-arc for that, by A.J. Laudasso, this retelling of Great Gatsby. Next month is Jane Austen July, and I've got this, Northanger Abbey, for Jane Austen July. And I also need to read Mary Barton before I read Jane Austen, but I've nearly finished this. I only read one classic at a time. So that was my mid-year Freakout. If you like this tag, please feel free to do it. I think the originator is now a private video, so I can't link to the original tag. And if you like this video, you can like and subscribe below, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.